Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a very special episode of the Drachmas and Denarii podcast. As always, I am your host, Sam, joined today by Nick. He is the head of the coin cabinet in Brussels, and today we've got a very special interview where we're going to be learning all about how that works as a position and sort of get to see the inside of a coin cabinet and learn about this very awesome job that he has and more about the Belgian coin cabinet and the Royal Belgian Library in general. Well, Nick, thank you for coming on. I hope you are doing well.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to the interview and telling you guys all about the coin cabinet and what we do.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I think maybe the easiest place to start off is a general background. Not everyone becomes the head of a coin cabinet. That's a pretty cool position and a hard one to find. So maybe you can kind of give us a little bit of your background, sort of maybe where you went to school, kind of maybe your academic focuses, and then how you kind of got this position and sort of your pathway into this.
Mhm. Yeah, so I studied ancient history here in Belgium at the University of Leuven. And during my studies, I got interested in ancient coins, basically. There was a very good numismatics course at my university taught by Johan Vaneerdewegh, who at the time was the curator of the coin cabinet in the Royal Library. So he took us to the coin cabinet, showed us these amazing coins, and I mean, he's a really good speaker. So he really kind of managed to stimulate this passion. So I got interested in coins, and then I was on vacation with my then girlfriend, now my wife, in Germany and in Trier. And at the Porta Nigra, they were selling Roman coins in a tourist shop, basically, and they were super cheap. So I bought two coins, showed them to the professor, and he was like, "Yeah, they're absolutely real." And that's how
That's lucky.
I really, yeah,
With a
yeah,
tourist coin like that, you
absolutely.
never know.
No, no. A couple of years before that, I also bought a coin that turned out to be fake, but these thankfully were real. But I was hooked, I was really hooked on coins. So during my studies, I also really focused on numismatics. I wrote my master's thesis on a numismatic topic on the Feltem Preparatio coins, so coin reform of the mid 4th century, very common, well-known Roman bronze coins, but with a very interesting iconography. And I did an internship at the coin cabinet. And I remember thinking back then, wow, if I can work in this place someday, that would just be a dream come true. So I'm glad. I'm glad it worked out. So after my studies, I went into academia, not with a focus on numismatics, with a focus on papyrology because the ancient history department at my university was mainly focused on that. It was an economic topic that I pursued, so it was kind of linked to numismatics, but it wasn't really like just pure numismatics. And then in my spare time, I started working for an auction house, Loy, well-known auction house, and I started cataloging coins in my spare time because I had a lot of spare time at that point in life, and I thought, hey, I'm basically looking at coins every spare moment I got. Why not make a bit of money off of that? So I became an external cataloger for Lloyd. That was in 2019. And then in 2021, I got an offer from them to go work for them full time, which I accepted. So I moved to Switzerland, lived there for 3 years, worked as senior numismatist, and then I got a kid, and my wife and I were thinking, okay, well, we want to go back to Belgium. And then I was super fortunate because the position at the coin cabinet opened up. I mean, there are not a lot of positions in numismatics worldwide, and especially not in a small country like Belgium. So it was just incredibly good fortune that the position opened up. So I applied for it, and that's how I became the curator of the coin cabinet, basically. So I have a dual background. I have a background in academics, in academia, and in the trade, and both really help for my job. We can get into that later. You were asking me about my research focus. So when it comes to research, I'm really focused on iconography. That's really my thing, especially iconography of coins from late antiquity and also Roman provincial coins, specifically Alexandria. That's really my thing. I'm currently working on an article looking at religious coin iconography and how we should interpret that. So yeah, that's my research focus.
Well, very cool. Sounds very interesting. We can make sure to link some of those in the description also for anyone who's interested in reading that. Some of the articles you mentioned, like your master's dissertation, also sounds very interesting. That's, I know, a very
Mhm.
popular coin type. A lot of people enjoy that. But yeah, very interesting. So it's a pretty sort of diverse background that you've got, also not just in numismatics, but kind of like you said, the wider economic history as a whole. So you kind of have that background, that formation, and you get the job. What does day one look like? You're hired to co-work at this coin cabinet. Do you just walk in and you're kind of bewildered by the amount of old trays and cabinets and books, or what is that sort of day one feeling? The door opens, you walk inside and realize, like, wow, this is my job from now on.
Yeah. It was pretty amazing. Basically, day one on the job, and that's of course the thing with the coin cabinet here in Belgium, and I guess it's also the case in Paris. We're part of a larger institution, you know. So the Royal Library is a very big institution. It's the biggest library in the country. There is a modern library, but also like medieval manuscripts, so a really good manuscript collection. We have all sorts of heritage departments. So basically, the first day was just walking around the building, getting to know people, and just finding my way. And I remember at the end of the day thinking, oh my God, I don't know how to get out of this building because it's so big. It's a real labyrinth. When it came to the coin cabinet, of course, I'd already visited the coin cabinet before, so it's not that I didn't know it at all. But basically, first day or the second day, I had the key to the cabinets in which the coins are actually kept on the trays. You basically open up some cabinets and you look what's inside, and you take out some trays, and you just start looking through stuff and looking at things. That's basically, I mean, the first thing you got to do is learn about your collection, and the best way to do that is to just look at it and just kind of check out what you have. And we have a lot. um, I don't have an exact number. We don't have an exact number, but probably we have about 250,000 to 300,000 numismatic objects in the
Wow.
collection. Coins, medals, banknotes, weights. It's really diverse. We have a lot tokens. I mean, we have a lot of different things. Some part of the collection is really well cataloged. Parts of the collection are pretty poorly cataloged. There's still a lot of work to do when it comes to that. Um, so yeah, just getting to know all of that. I remember one of the first things I did was just doing a count of the Greek coins because I kind of wanted to know, okay, how many Greek coins do we have in our collection? And I mean, that's definitely one of the best parts of our collection, the Greek collection. And then we had almost 10,000, it was
Wow.
just shy of 10,000 Greek coins. So yeah, that's basically how you get started in a job like that, which was a lot of fun, of course. Just opening cabinets and
Yeah, medallions, all
seeing
kind of
stuff.
cool things.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's also, you got to
absolutely.
take that into consideration. I had a lot of trachea. It's not the same, though. If you have 10,000 nice Greek coins and a lot of little small bronze, they don't quite equate there. But for the cabinet, I would
Mhm.
imagine also, is there going to be a specific focus on Belgian coinage? Kind of, I would imagine a lot of that's going to be more in sort of the modern and sort of medieval era. Do you kind of see a core focus on that, or is it really just sort of a broad, sort of holistic approach to what the coin cabinet has and where they kind of specialize?
So the coin cabinet, I mean, we are the national coin collection. So of course the focus, especially when it comes to acquisitions, also historically, has really been on the coinage of the southern Low Countries, so what is today Belgium, and we definitely have the best collection in that area in the world. I mean, there's also a really good private collection being formed in the US currently, but it's still not as good as ours, hopefully. But yeah, I mean, that of course is our core business, but it must be said that a lot of the curators, especially in the 20th century and also in the 21st century, have been ancient numismatists, not necessarily experts of the medieval period or later periods. Of course, as a curator, you need to know everything. Well, you can't know everything literally, of course, but you need to know a little bit about everything because you're dealing with such a diverse material. But yeah, definitely Middle Ages, early modern period, modern day Belgium. I mean that of course is a very important part, and also I would say the biggest part of our collection. Not just the coins, but also the medals. Belgium has a very rich medallic history, and it really shows in our collection that medals and tokens and that kind of stuff also really takes up a big part of it.
And so, kind of in terms then of you have seen the collection, you've managed it, you've kind of taken stock of what's there, a lot of ancient, a lot of medieval and modern also, and then also, of course, the Belgian focus. What does the actual job entail? Kind of, you've had your introduction now, you've kind of seen the cabinets and whatnot. What does sort of a day-to-day operation look like when you're sort of in the swing of things now? You've had the job for a while. What does your routine
Mhm,
look like? What are kind of daily tasks you might expect to do as the manager, as a curator in a coin
mhm.
cabinet?
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, there are two parts to my job. One part is indeed kind of like the day-to-day business and the kind of thing you basically do every day, and then there's a part that really every day brings something new, basically. So of course the most basic job. So my title is conservator, not curator, but the difference, I mean, in practice, it doesn't really mean very much. So basically, the very first thing that I need to do or guarantee is the physical integrity of the collection, which, if you have a small coin collection, doesn't really sound very difficult to do. But if you have like 300,000 objects, it, you, you run into some problems because some things haven't been stored properly in the past, or for example, there are lead objects that show signs of corrosion. I mean, there's a lot of work and still a lot of work to do with all that kind of stuff, you know? So basically, it's first of all, make sure that the collection is kept in good condition, because the idea is to maintain this collection, to keep these pieces for, well, basically eternity. Okay, I know the banknotes and the paper stuff probably won't survive for all eternity, but the gold and silver probably will if it's well maintained, you know. So that's basically one of the most basic things you need to ensure. Apart from that, what do I do every day? I answer a lot of emails, basically. People have questions, people want to visit the coin cabinet, researchers often need photos of coins, all sorts of stuff. For example, one thing that also takes up quite a bit of time is loans to other institutions. So the coin cabinet doesn't have its own museum or its own display. Well, we have our in our reading room, some coins are shown, but of course, the vast majority of the collection is in the cabinets for security reasons. Um, the library does have a museum, but only a very small part, and it's all about the Middle Ages and early modern period, so a very small part of our collection is shown there. So basically, but other institutions do often ask for loans, so if we can loan them some objects, we lend them some objects, which we basically always, or pretty much always accept. Um, if the demand is reasonable, and then yeah, but that also takes up quite a bit of time. I need to manage the staff. Currently, the coin cabinet doesn't have a very large staff. That was quite different 10 years ago. There were a lot more people, but we do have a lot of interns, especially now it's summer, so there's not a lot of students around. But once the academic year starts again, you know, we have quite a few interns. You need to make sure that the interns are doing their job and so on. Also within the library, you work in a broader institution, so you need to work with other people on more broader things within the library. So there's really quite a lot to do. You do have quite a lot on your plate as a curator, because it's not just your job. You also need to make sure that other people are know what to do and then kind of think about long-term strategies and plans and so on. So I would say that's probably usually when I get to the office, the first thing I do is just answer emails, and then so that's like the really the day-to-day of my job. And then there's more flexibility. For example, this summer I've really been focusing on research. So I've been doing a lot of research, which is basically reading publications, looking at coins, trying to figure stuff out. Um, in winter, I was working on a small exhibit that we organized, small exposition about the history of Belgium seen through coins, which took a lot of work. I mean, it's really costs quite a bit of work organizing something like that, but that's the kind of stuff. I mean, you have like, I didn't have to do it, but you can choose to do and organize stuff like that. So, and that's more varied. So, yeah. So one part is really kind of fixed and one part is really open.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And kind of in terms of research, also, do you manage publications at all? How does that side look? I know sometimes coin cabinets will produce like a printed catalog for like a gift shop or for people who are interested. Sometimes they also do publications of work. Do you also have that as a part of
Mhm.
your responsibilities to kind of manage the publication side, or is that more split off into a different area within the wider library?
Well, the thing is, the coin cabinet hasn't really, well, in the past, the coin cabinet has produced publications, like print publications in the past. Currently, we're not really doing it that much anymore because it costs a lot of work. And because we're really focused on digitizing the collection, I think it's probably more useful to focus our efforts on making sure that our collection can be consulted online and getting out a print publication, which
I
would
agree.
cost just as much, if not more, work. But print publications, I mean, it's numismatic literature, so it's not gonna sell thousands upon thousands of copies. So, you're looking at limited prints and then it's out of print and then people can't find it anymore and then it costs a fortune to buy and so on. So I think we're really focusing on digitizing the collection. But in the past, parts of the collection have been published. So two of our best collection when it comes to the ancient coins, two of our best collections have been published, the collection of Lucien de Hirsch and the collection of Alberic du Châtel, two collections of two 19th century noblemen who had really good collections. So those have been published. So there are some publications that have come, and of course, that for the coin cabinet as an institution, of course, as a researcher, publications. I mean, when you publish articles or stuff like that, we you yeah, you can basically just do that. We don't have our own journal. The coin cabinet doesn't have its own journal, but the Royal Belgian Numismatic Society, of course, does have its journal, the Revue Belge Numismatique, and we have very good contacts with the Royal Numismatic Society. So, I mean, they're not, they also have their seat in the coin cabinet. So, I mean, we have very good contacts with them, but it's separate, that's really a whole other thing. And then that's not something that I'm involved in my day-to-day work. So,
Makes sense, yeah. Let me ask you
mhm.
this also. Was there a big surprise, anything that kind of stood out that you wouldn't have expected going into this job that you kind of saw from the inside now that was just sort of surprising?
I guess the yeah, well, I guess the amount of amounts of emails that I have to answer, that was kind of surprising. There really have been days that I thought, man, I've been doing nothing else but writing and answering emails all day. But I guess, yeah, what is really an interesting aspect of the job is the whole loan procedure, like lending coins to other institutions or usually museums, for expositions, and going there and installing the coins or supervising the installation of those coins in an exhibit. That's something I had never done before, and it's really super interesting to see what's going on behind the scenes in a museum. Like usually you go to this museum and they're still setting everything up, and it's really a look behind the scenes. You see these crates coming in, and sometimes there's like priceless works of art, in those crates, and that was really interesting. A couple of yeah, not even a couple of weeks ago, I think it was in May or something. I went to Rome to install a couple of pieces in the Curia Julia, so on the Forum Romanum, which is, of course, a super nice location to go for your job. And it was just a crazy experience. I was sitting in a car that was driving on the Forum Romanum on the way to the Curia Julia, which is not the kind I could never have imagined that I would one day be doing something like that. So that is one aspect of my job that really surprised me, like, and really a lot of work goes into it. So I have a now when I visit museums or something like that, I have a very different look at the way everything is. Yeah, I really think about all the work that goes into it, like all the behind the scenes stuff. So that was definitely surprising. I guess what was also surprising, I mean, of course, and I think every curator who gets to know his collection is like that, just like the sheer breadth and variety of the collection, like and sometimes just like really amazing stuff, like some really curious objects that we have, or some really crazy things, or getting to know the stories behind certain objects. I mean, sometimes there was also some really funny stuff there. And one of the craziest things I had happen was after 2 months or something. It's a little anecdote, but it does kind of show what weird stuff sometimes happens at a coin cabinet. Two Australian ladies asked for an appointment with the coin cabinet the day beforehand. Normally, you need to do it 2 days beforehand, but well, but they were from Australia, so it's like, yeah, sure, come over. They were like, yeah, we're not actually here to see coins. We're actually here because we are looking for more information about the missing mother of one of the ladies, and the missing mother she disappeared, and the disappearance was linked to a Belgian, basically, fraudster who had also forged coins and who had apparently visited the coin cabinet at some point. And suddenly I was involved with like a murder mystery and stuff like that,
Wow.
which was really, really unexpected.
You
But
never know what
yeah,
walks through the door.
you never know what walks through the door. And that's definitely, yeah, I mean, that was pretty crazy, but it's not, it's yeah, sometimes there's some pretty unusual stuff going on. So yeah.
Do you have a favorite piece, a favorite coin? Are you allowed to say that? They're all your children, so maybe you can't pick. But if you're allowed to say it, is there one that stands out to
Uh,
you as just especially cool?
yeah, I mean it depends on. I mean the collection is so big, it's really difficult to say, okay, this one single coin is my favorite piece. When it comes to the Greek coins, probably my favorite piece is one struck by Amphipolis, which is a super nice. I can send you a photo tomorrow, which is really a super nice, really super nice coin. I would say probably one of my favorite coins in the collection. Is really not the most beautiful coin in the collection, far from it, but it just has such a super interesting history, and I think I've told you about it before. It's a Byzantine coin, a Byzantine solidus of Justinian first. And it was actually, so it's been reworked into a pendant. There's like a little hoop attached so you can wear it as a necklace. and it was actually found in the 19th century in a 14th century hoard. So a hoard that was of medieval coins formed at the start of the 14th century, containing mainly Italian coins, so Venetian coins. There were Florentine coins, French coins, coins from the southern Low Countries, and then you have this one Byzantine piece, which is super weird. This coin at that moment in time was already hundreds of years old. And that, of course, begs the question: what's this coin doing in this hoard? And I mean, of course, we can fantasize about it as much as we want. What I personally think is, I think it was a souvenir of like an Italian merchant who picked it up in the Levant, probably maybe even in Constantinople or somewhere, in the east, like during his voyages, and then he took it with him. The hoard was found in Bruges, which had a very large Italian community, like Italian merchants, bankers were settled in Bruges. So, it kind of makes sense, like this Italian having this thing, because it was used as a necklace, so having this thing as a kind of souvenir and then taking it with him, and but it was gold, so one point form the horde and then throw it in as well. I don't know. I think that's really such a fun piece because it really throws up so many questions like what's going on with this thing and so on. And it's not a beautiful coin. It's completely worn and everything, but it's a super cool piece. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, it
Yeah.
seems
And I
like
mean,
a really fun job. A lot of cool stories and a lot of fun responsibilities in that sense, besides the emails, but maybe you can hire some more interns, have them do all that.
Yeah, the interns usually catalog coins. So I mean, they really do very useful work. When 10 years ago, when I was an intern, I also cataloged coins. I cataloged Roman coins, and that's really basically almost all of the Roman coins. The vast majority of them have been cataloged by interns. Um, so that's really great. It would be need to have some interns for the Greek coins as well, but Roman coins are generally easier to access than Greek coins because they're, especially if it's Republican or Imperial coinage, there's one catalog that you need to use: Roman Republican coinage or Roman Imperial coinage. And it's pretty straightforward. Whereas for Greek coins, the literature is so vast, and you really need to know which catalogs to use and so on. You need preferably be able to read Greek. It's usually quite an advantage, and a lot of the interns can't read Greek and so on. So yeah, it's a shame because really a large part of the Greek collection, or the vast majority, isn't cataloged online, isn't digitized, and that's really something that I want to get to work on the coming years. That would be good.
Future goal.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, what does the digitization look like? I guess just photography and uploading that online. I mean, is that a rather simple process or is it complicated? I suppose just the scale is going to make that difficult. But in
Yeah,
terms of like you have a
it's a
coin in the
lot.
cabinet, you get it digitized. What's the process like from sort of the cabinet into the internet?
Yeah, it's a long process basically. So of course, first we need to ideally catalog the coin, because we don't want too many coins to be in our database that don't have a description. Of course, when you need to work really fast, if it's like for an exposition or something, you can for temporarily just make a very short description. The thing is, we don't do the photography ourselves. It's another department in the library that's responsible for the digitization of all the collections, so also for the manuscripts, the prints, whatever. Of course, they have specialized equipment for photographing coins. So we work with them closely, give them feedback. We're in really close contact with them. Um, so it's a process that I would call it slow but steady because there's just so much material. I mean, there's just so much, and we really need to think about what we want to focus on. So the focus currently has really been on southern Low Countries and the Roman coins. For sure. But there's still, I mean, the goal, of course, is to digitize everything. That's really my goal. Not only because then you can consult everything online, which would of course be great, but also for security reasons, it's good to have photos of everything and so on. So yeah, but it's still gonna take, I mean, it's still gonna take a long time to digitize everything. But of course, I mean, there are priorities. And for example, let's say that our just gonna pick out something completely random, our 20th century Egyptian coins or something like that. Let's just say that's not a huge priority over, say, the Roman coins or the Greek coins. We also think about, okay, what sort of coins, or when researchers or collectors come to us, I mean, what sort of coins or what do they need for their research? And usually people come to us for the ancient coins or the southern low countries. So that's what we try to focus on. So you can find all that online. Yeah, but of course, exactly how the process of actually putting the photos online, that's all done by the digitization department, and I don't know exactly how they do it. I mean, I sort of have a notion of how they do it, but I can't explain it exactly.
Makes sense, yeah. Well, sounds interesting, and hopefully that gets finished pretty quickly. Very important. I know in a lot of my research also that's helped different museums having that online. It really does make a difference.
Mhm.
So, what does the future hold for you? I think we're kind of approaching our half hour mark, so I don't want to take too much of your time up here. I'm very thankful that you could come on. But anything in the future lined up? Anything fun coming? Projects you can tell us about, or a display in the
Um,
museum, perhaps the library there?
yeah, well, one thing that I'm going to look at with a couple of colleagues is whether or not we could perhaps organize an exposition dedicated to the collection of Lucien de Hirsch. So, just in a nutshell, Lucien de Hirsch was a 19th century nobleman, son of Maurice de Hirsch, who was basically one of the richest men in the world at that time. And Lucien had unlimited funds to buy coins. So, in like 10 years, he formed a collection of nearly 1,900 Greek coins with some of the best Greek coins in the world. Not all of them are beauties. He also bought, like, sometimes he bought really scrappy bronzes for some reason, for scientific purposes probably, but like the some of those Greek coins are absolutely out of this world. But there's never, to my knowledge, never been an exposition really dedicated to the collection as a whole. Of course, individual pieces have gone to other institutions or have been shown in the library, but there's never really been an exhibition really dedicated to that collection and to that family's history, which is a really interesting history. It's also a really interesting family, and I really want to try and I really want to explore the possibilities to really do something with that because I think we received those coins were donated to us, and I really think we owe it to the family to really to show them to the world. So that's, of course, that won't be for next month, but that's definitely something that I want to look at. Yeah, and apart from that, one thing that I'm currently also doing through certain numismatic forums, Reddit, the Discord channel is do a bi-weekly, so every 2 weeks I post a coin from our collection just to give the collection a little more visibility because in the scientific world the collection is pretty well known. Most researchers know that we exist and what we have in our collection, but I mean numismatics is broader than that, and I really want to basically raise awareness about our collection because it's such a fun collection and people are definitely welcome to visit us. I mean, yeah, the website says that you need to make an appointment, and of course you need to make an appointment, but I would say I wouldn't want that to scare anyone off. You really can just say, hey, I'm in Belgium for a couple of days next week, could I come over one day and look at some coins, and that's perfectly fine. So we really want to create an open environment for everyone who loves coins, and you can just come look at the coins because you think they look nice. You can do it for scientific purposes, doesn't really matter. So that's also a little project that's currently ongoing. So yeah.
Yeah, I've seen those and they're very fun to see the different medallions and very nice coins posted. Learn about the numismatic history and the collection as well. And I'll go ahead and make sure that I post all those links in the description too for anyone who's interested. The Reddit, the Discord, all of that. Also the cabinet website, the applications to where you can put that in to come visit. And I'm very thankful you could come on and spend some time with us and present about your job in the cabinet. And for all of us to learn about that, it's been very exciting for me, and I'm sure our audience will also find this very interesting. So, Nick, thank you very much for your time. Good luck at the cabinet on your adventures, and look forward to when we can chat again in the future, maybe about that display whenever that comes live.
Okay, well, thank you very much for having me. Right.
Perfect. Thanks. Take care.